A real great sign of understanding material and understanding a subject matter is being able to explain it in a way that's not fancy and using all the jargon, but simply that allows people to take action. And so a lot of times I spend, especially in the beginning, but throughout the course of the relationship, really listening to the client and what they're trying to accomplish, where they are, what their past experiences have been, because all of those things really play into how they feel about money and how they feel about their investments and the decisions they're going to make.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Connected Advisor. I'm your host, Kyle Van Pelt, CEO and co-founder of Milemarker. And today I have the privilege of being joined by Melissa Bouchillon. She is the managing partner and co-founder of Soundview Wealth Advisors. She is a resident of Georgia like myself, but she's out on the coast in Savannah. And outside of Soundview, she spends her time with great organizations like Landings Military Relief Fund, Marshes of Skidaway Island, and Savannah Music Festival, which I would love to talk about today in the podcast industry. She went out on her own. She's built this really cool firm out in Savannah, Georgia. I'm excited to talk about it today. So, Melissa, thanks so much for joining the show.
Kyle, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I want to start with my first question for you, which is, you all have a pretty unique marketing angle, is the way I understand it. So my research shows that a lot of the marketing spend happens to kind of be philanthropic in nature or something along those lines. Did I understand that right? Do you want to correct my story there?
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think that's one of the benefits of having your own firm is you get to create your own culture. And so a lot of times at larger firms, when I was with other organizations, you spend so much time in marketing and advertising when really our approach is quite different in the sense that we really believe that we wouldn't exist if it weren't for the communities that we're in. And so rather than putting a bunch of dollars into fancy ads, we really try to make sure that we support the organizations that we care about, that are driving impact in the community, that our families are involved with and end up using. And so by kind of making that shift, it's been wonderful because you still get sort of the marketing benefit, but at the same time, you're really driving impact, which is what we try to do with our clients, with the people that work with us, and then also within the communities that we live.
That's amazing. And so is that kind of how you got involved with Marshes of Skidaway Island, which if I understand that right, doing my research, that's like a retirement community out there in the Savannah area?
So yes, so I was on the board of the Marshes for a number of years. I served about 7 years. And that was just an organization that intrigued me. It's a nonprofit here on Skidaway Island, which is a CCRC, which is a continuing care community. And really having so many clients that enter retirement and then we're seeing them through all the different phases of their lives, being able to know and understand that environment and what it's like and how to help people age well, because that at the end of the day is really our goal. You know, you think about it, after your finances allow you to do all the things and drive the impact that you want to drive after your family, after your health. Your finances are critical, and having somebody you can trust to help you build out that plan, not just early when you're working, but also kind of seeing you through the course of your lifetime makes a lot of sense. So I was interested in really understanding what that looks like and how sort of the nursing homes of 20, 30 years ago are not at all what the vibrant communities are like the Marshes today.
Yeah. Is that at all? So I grew up in Orlando, Florida, pretty close to the Villages, which is this like, world-renowned retirement community. Is that kind of the vibe that the Marshes is going for, or is it completely different?
It's complete. Well, let's say it's different. It's similar in the sense that it's folks that are at the stage of life where they want to still live independently, but have additional care and resources available for them. But it's different in the sense that it really envelops the energy and the vibe of Skidaway Island. So for people that live in Savannah, Georgia, and on Skidaway Island that really want to continue kind of that lifestyle to the greatest extent possible, the Marshes is a great solution.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so Melissa, anybody who's listened to this for a while knows the question that's getting ready to come. I ask every guest this. So I love this industry. I have found that some people have a very traditional path into this industry and some people have a very untraditional path into this industry. But either way, I think all of everybody's story is unique on how we get here. So I always ask what your money moment is, because what I've found is everybody who works in this industry, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, had a moment, a money moment in their life that caused them to go, this is what I want to devote my career and my time to helping people with money or whatever it is. So we've heard some incredible stories. I want to hear yours. So Melissa, what is your money moment?
So it's interesting. I grew up in New Jersey, actually. So even though I've lived most of my life in the Southeast, I grew up in New Jersey. My father was a Guatemalan immigrant. So he worked really hard in a factory 6 days a week, got up every day, never complained, and really did a great job providing us opportunities, moving to a great township where I was able to get a phenomenal education and be exposed to things that I wouldn't have ordinarily been exposed to. And so I went to college and I thought I was going to be an accounting major, actually, and do a 5 years master's in accounting program. And while I was there, I switched my major to psychology, took some business classes, but also had a focus on education and in particular, special education. At the time, I had been doing an independent study with a child with autism. They were nonverbal and I just was intrigued. And so when it came time to get my master's, I actually got my master's in education. I know it's wild, at the University of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. So I was there, and from there went into teaching. And so I've taught regular ed, gifted, and special ed students and loved that, loved working with kids. But then at some point in time, I said, I love this, but I also want to be a mom and I want to see what else I could do to really help people and drive impact. And again, kind of going back to after someone's family and really their health, their finances, and having somebody that you could really lean into to help you kind of objectively gain some perspective and do what was in your best interest, and taking more of a planning-based approach intrigued me. So I liked that sort of advice and counseling role and looked into where I could go to sort of get the training. And at the time, Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch had the best training programs in the industry. But it was back in 2002 and none of those firms were hiring. They were actually reducing their workforce. And so it took me 2 years to eventually get a job at Merrill Lynch, which they were willing to take a chance on me because, interestingly enough, the Wall Street Journal had published an article that teachers make really good financial advisors because they can take complex subject matter and explain it in a way where you drill down and you can take action. And so I haven't looked back since. I absolutely love my career and I feel like I really do help people.
Okay, so this is why I love asking this question, because hindsight being 2020, a focus in psychology and, the ability to teach actually are probably, two of the best things you could have done for being a financial advisor and financial planner. So would love to ask you how those things have actually helped you be successful. And I would just say as a caveat, I feel like most of the people I talk to on this show or I have conversations with, all of the firms that are doing the best are the ones that are doing the most education, like through their content, through everything. It's like whoever's teaching the most seems to be growing the most. So I'm very fascinated to hear kind of how those things have helped you at Soundview.
Well, it's funny. My partner, Emerson Ham, who was a business major in college, he always jokingly says, who knew that the best combination would have been psychology, education, and then I do have my certified financial planning designation. But being able to pull all those skill sets together, I think, is really important. Unfortunately, in the industry, training advisors is really difficult. And for some time, I ran the training program at Merrill Lynch for our region. And a lot of times the approach has been more sales oriented. And so when you think about it, clients really are coming to you because they want objective advice. They want somebody who's going to serve as their fiduciary and really put together a plan and investment strategy that's in their best interest. But a lot of times, based on the goals and the programs and the way they're oriented, people end up with really heavy sales training as opposed to the planning and the advice side of things. And so I absolutely think really having that perspective of I'm trying to make a difference, help people, and really believe I could. I always say if I had to sell someone something, I would fail miserably. But if I think I'm helping somebody with something, there's no way you're not going to let me help you because I'm that passionate about it. And I really think it's important to help drill down, and everything we do in life has pros and cons. And so I always try to point those out for our clients and try to drive them towards really good decision making.
That's fantastic. Out of curiosity, you brought this up a little bit. I think it's a good topic of discussion. So taking a complex idea, there's no shortage of those in financial advice with all of our jargon and our acronyms and all of the things that we have, and distilling it down into simple concepts. So quick backstory for those of you who don't know. So I started my time in this space at Riskalyze. It's now called Nitrogen. And I think that's the whole MO of that business is like, how do you take something complex like standard deviation and Sharpe ratios and all of these crazy things and boil it down into a number that everybody can speak the same language around? And that created a ton of success for everybody. And so I love that just as a concept in our industry as a whole. So for you, how do you take complex things and boil them down into simple concepts that create common language for clients who might not know a lot of the things that we're talking about? You know, we talk about this stuff every single day, but they only hear it the first time they come and meet with you.
No question. And I think what happens is a real great sign of understanding material and understanding a subject matter is being able to explain it in a way that's not fancy and using all the jargon, but simply that allows people to take action. And so a lot of times I spend, especially in the beginning, but throughout the course of the relationship, really listening to the client and what they're trying to accomplish, where they are, what their past experiences have been, because all of those things really play into how they feel about money and how they feel about their investments and the decisions they're going to make. And my goal for folks is to drive understanding and education over time and drive good decision making. And so I'd always rather take a lot of time on that front end to really explain things. And when we're explaining things, I try to eliminate a lot of the fancy terms like you just went through and talk in plain speak in terms that people understand. And I also am a big believer that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So being able to illustrate it to folks, and like you were saying, and I'm very familiar with Riskalyze and some of those other tools, we use similar tools where we can real time have conversations with people and show them the impact of here's where you are and here's what you're doing. If we change these things, here's where you'll be. If you retired tomorrow, if you retired in 5 years, if you help your daughter buy this house, whatever their issue is, whatever they're contemplating, being able to show them the impact of that decision-making makes it real. And then you can get into the details around the investment strategies. A lot of times people get micro-focused on whether they're investing in, NVIDIA or Google or Apple or Philip Morris. And that's an important conversation, but so much more time needs to be spent on the understanding of budgeting, cash flow, estate planning needs, really what the purpose of someone's wealth is and what they're trying to accomplish, and then back into the strategies.
Excellent. I love it. So Melissa, you all just recently opened an office in Bluffton, South Carolina. So kind of just outside the Hilton Head, Charleston area. And you had a relatively thoughtful approach to how to do that. What led you all to choose that area? Not too far up the road from where you're at now, but interested in that story.
The way we look at doing things is really we're trying to drive always what's best for our clients and then what's best for the people that work with us here at Soundview. And so as we started to look at the areas, we're on Skidaway Island, which is a great community. And if I go back 20 years ago when I started, 80% of my clients are on Skidaway. Now, probably 50% are on Skidaway. I have clients all over the country, and then even some that live internationally, either all year long or part of the year. And so looking to help clients, and rather than building offices that are convenient for us, really meeting clients where they are. And so we've had a lot of clients in the Bluffton area and moved to the Bluffton area. And so we decided that we would open an office there. And what's nice about it is rather than having one big headquarters on Skidaway Island, we've opened an office in Statesboro. We've opened an office now in Bluffton and then here on Skidaway. And we're going to continue to take that approach to meet clients in the areas that they live so that we can be a resource in their local communities.
That's really cool. And then if my research again was right, I think you all took a unique approach here too, which was not just opening the office, but I think you rotated some staff that people were maybe already familiar with or familiar faces up to the Bluffton office to open it. Was that for culture continuity? Was that for people who just volunteered and raised their hand and said, I'd love to go to Bluffton? Or how did that come about?
Pre-COVID, we all had set offices. We all really reported to the same office and we're in one place. And what I realized is sort of the world and the environment has changed. There's a benefit to hybrid work, but not all the time, or the ability to work from home some. And so as we were reintegrating after, being at home during COVID for a brief period of time, we said, okay, how do we make this? How do we take what's good about giving people some freedom and flexibility, but also kind of mix things up? So one of the things we did is we needed space on Skidaway. Rather than having everyone have a set office, we just had office spaces that as you were meeting with clients in the office, you would meet in those offices. And that really got people moving and integrating and teaming up more, which was interesting. And then as we've opened up these other offices, several of our employees end up working out of several offices over the course of a week. So again, you're getting to work with different team members. You're getting to work in different locations. And then clients get to see people that they're actually familiar with rather than just hiring a whole new group of folks to work out of Bluffton. And so it's been a combination approach, which has worked really well. Most people, depending on their role, earn a day a week that they can work from home if they choose, and have a certain number of sort of hybrid work from home days a year that they can utilize as needed. And that's been really good for culture too. So again, most of our decision making is all around doing what's best for our clients first and foremost, and then what's best to really support the people that are working with us so that they view this as a career and that they really are giving our clients their best work.
This podcast is brought to you by Turncast. We make game-changing content for fintech and financial services companies. Learn more at turncast.com.
You also spent time, as you mentioned, running the training program at Merrill when you were there. I want to talk a little bit about what it takes to kind of onboard employees and make them successful. If you read any of the industry publications, any of this stuff, there's, lots of discussion about the war for talent, how hard it is to keep talent. Most recently, there was an article about all of the turnover in our industry because it's like, let's face it, it's just hyper specialized. It's a lot of training. There's this notion that at smaller firms, it's hard to get people to come and join you and train them and get, but the bigger firms can do it. So curious to hear about your experience with training programs, making it successful, because it seems like you have people who are sticking, who are staying, who love the culture and everything. So I'd love to hear you talk about, you're not a Merrill Lynch, you're not a humongous national RIA yet, right? But you've done a really good job of finding talent, training them, and keeping them and building culture there. I want to hear you talk about that.
My approach when I was it was helpful because when I was over at Merrill Lynch, having just gotten out of the training program, I could really see sort of where the holes were and what was needed, and was able to infuse more of that planning-based approach to the program rather than just very much sales-oriented goals. And then from there, I went on to sort of run several offices where I was the resident director. And so I was very familiar with the hiring process, the education process, and then that training process. And I think a lot of times people walk in the door and they think, oh, I've gotten the job at Merrill Lynch, or I've gotten the job as an advisor. It's going to be so easy. And I always spend time with people on the front end, explaining to them how absolutely wonderful this career can be, but also the trajectory, and to build a practice and to really understand and have the level of understanding that you need to help clients. It takes years. It takes 5 years. And then, you're still growing those first 5 to 10 years significantly. And you also have to be intrigued with being this lifelong learner and very much intrinsically motivated. So those are all characteristics I'm looking for. And then just making sure you're providing people the support. One of the great things for me is I was working with a great team and great mentors initially, to where I was in meetings with clients and prospective clients my first week. I was up in Atlanta 2 weeks ago, and I met with a family that I've been working with for 20 years. I work with the father and the mother. I work with their 4 kids. I work with their grandkids. I'm setting up plans for their great-grandchildren as far as their education. That was a family that I met with my first week at Merrill Lynch. And so being exposed and really taking serious the role of mentoring and making sure you have people within your firm that are really willing to provide just guidance to the new hires and the folks that are working at the firm, I think is mission critical. And so you have to be willing to invest time and energy in your new hires in order to train them and to expose them to the things that you want them to know and understand about your process and how you help your clients. I think that gets overlooked. And a lot of times, sometimes at larger firms, based on how the programs are set up, someone gets hired and they're thrown on a team, and the team's just happy to have somebody that Merrill's paying for or UBS is paying for to help them. And they don't spend the time really trying to develop them as an advisor. And if you develop them as an advisor, it's going to be additive to your team, additive to your clients, and additive to your growth over time.
Well stated. All right. As we continue the discussion around growth, I want to pivot and talk a little bit about technology. So there's no shortage of options today for technology that can be used, all of that stuff. We talked a little bit about Riskalyze, now known as nitrogen. I'm still not used to that. Still working on it.
No, me neither.
But talk to me a little bit about the role technology plays in building SoundView and some of the technology you're using. You clearly have a very heavy planning focus, but talk to me about that.
That was one of the more interesting pieces of building out a firm, is really being able to build out that tech stack or platform that your clients need based on the folks that you work with. And so that is incredible, but it's also daunting. And so you have to really be willing to spend the time up front. And we've been fortunate because of our relationship with Focus Financial Partners that when we went independent, we were able to lean on other firms within the organization and also the expertise that Focus had in, hey, here's what Orion does, here's what Tamarack looks like, and kind of run comparisons and really figure out what would be best for our clients. Right now, we are a dual custodian. So our clients have assets either at Fidelity or Charles Schwab. We utilize Orion for our performance reporting, billing, that organizational piece. We utilize Hidden Levers for a lot of our risk analytics. And then eMoney is our planning-based software. And then we've got a variety of other wealth boxes, sort of our Salesforce or CRM, so to speak. And so it's been interesting because there's been an evolution. Not all of those vendors were our original vendors when we started 6 years ago. And one thing that I love about being on the independent side and being a registered investment advisory firm is we can look and do research and constantly be willing to make a change. I don't like making changes just to make changes, right? But it gives us a chance to really see what's out there. And if the risk analytics software we're using isn't effective, there's something better, we can make that decision. And it doesn't take a committee of 100 people agreeing in 3 years. And by the time we decide to implement that software or hardware, it's changed and, it's now moving in a different direction. So I think being nimble really has been super helpful and beneficial. And another example would be COVID, right? Being able to shift from being a primarily in-person firm to going remote overnight and not missing a beat. I think that really speaks to how nimble you can be when you are smaller and when you have the autonomy to make a lot of these decisions. Just today, we are going through looking at advanced planning software and what else is out there. And so one of my associates who does a lot of the research and due diligence, she was just debriefing me on a couple of different options as far as some of the advanced planning software. And so we're always looking to get better, and you can do it and be nimble and really continue to be cutting edge for our clients. But you have to be willing to challenge yourself. And that's one of the interesting pieces about being independent. I never wanted to end up being some small little firm on Skidaway Island that was really cutting edge 30 years ago when we started, but no, it no longer is. And so I'm constantly driving towards what's new, innovative, where do we need to be going, not just being comfortable with where we are. And that really permeates through every piece of our organization, whether it's in how we work with our clients, from the technology we use to the investment strategies, and then even how we approach our culture and the people that work with the firm.
Awesome. Well, while we're on the topic of technology, this is a question I love to ask. As you sit in the managing partner seat and the founder seat, let's look into the future a little bit. So Melissa, get out your crystal ball. Let's look, at least 5 years into the future, but maybe even more. This could be technology related. It could be process related. It could be client related, whatever you want. But, it's always fun to talk about where the industry's going, what's happening, what the future of this looks like. So for you, what do you think the future of the RIA industry looks like 5 years from now?
I think it's really, as we kind of look out, it's driving towards efficiencies and getting people to focus on the items and the things that matter. And so we want to continue to be a firm where people can call and they reach people, or they email and they reach people, right? And so often today, whether it's, Comcast you're calling, or ADT, or even just trying to call the service department to get your car fixed, you're always running into a machine. And I don't ever want to be that organization. And so I think making sure that our people are in kind of front and center and there and available to talk to clients, I think is mission critical. The interesting piece of that is there are components of artificial intelligence and a lot of the technology that's developing that can do some of the things that really don't matter, right? Like a client appointment reminder and being able to receive a text that reminds you of how, you've got an appointment coming up, or being able to schedule easily online without a human interaction. I think there are efficiencies that can be developed and utilized so that we get clients focusing on what's most important and what's going to really help them have a positive outcome and reach their goals. And then making sure that the people that work with our firm and our employees are spending their time engaged with clients. And I always say, we're human beings serving human beings. And I always want to stay that way. We just want to make sure that we utilize all of the really cutting edge technology that's out there to make it as easy a place to do business and to really drive the best results we can for our clients.
I love it. That's awesome. We're going to move into my final segment of the show, which is what I like to call the Milemarker Minute. So this is like a series of it's a series of lightning round questions. You're ready to roll. I love it.
Let's go.
The goal is let's try and get all the questions answered in a minute or less. I'm not going to hold you to it, but it's a bunch of fun questions, maybe a little bit outside of the industry, help people get to know Melissa, maybe outside of what wealth management or Soundview looks like. So are you ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll. Let's do it.
Okay. Melissa, my research shows that you are an avid runner. What is the longest race you have ever run?
A half marathon.
Half marathon. I did one of those too. Savannah Rock and Roll, by the way, a fun race for anybody out here who likes to run if you've never done that before.
Yes, I have done. That's the half marathons that I have run as well. And I was supposed to run a marathon, but ended up getting canceled due to weather. And so I only could do the half.
Where is one place you would love to travel that you've never traveled to before?
Africa.
Oh, good choice. Excluding being a teacher, because you already did that, if you were not doing wealth management as a profession, what other career do you think you would be doing?
I'd love to be a farmer.
Farmer?
Yes. And bees and chickens and horses. I jokingly say I'm a suburban farmer because I've got 3 horses, 2 beehives, a cat, a dog, guinea pigs, rabbit.
Oh my goodness. All right.
And the vegetable gardens.
That is awesome. Very, very cool. That's why I love doing this stuff. And then the best book that you have read in the last 12 months.
Oh, the best book I have read in the last 12 months. Oh, that's a good one. Atomic Habits.
Oh, James Clear. Very good. Awesome. You got through the Milemarker Minute, Melissa. I think this was an incredibly insightful conversation, one I had a lot of fun with, and I really appreciate you carving out some time for us today.
Well, thanks so much, Kyle. I appreciate the time. You've made this a lot of fun and enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, everybody, that's been another episode of The Connected Advisor. I hope you appreciated the insight and knowledge that Melissa just dropped on all of us. Please make sure to click follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this so that you can be sure to hear the next great episode like this one when it gets published every single week. Until next time, have a great week.